Hello, everyone. Welcome to Now Next Later for Monday, November 18th. We appreciate you checking in with us. I'm excited for today's episode, so we're not going to waste too much time. We're going to jump right in. But Sasha, hope you had a great weekend. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too, Jeremy.
Our guest today is Tammy Richards. I couldn't be more excited. Tammy is an industry leader, experienced. I would say, Tammy, also industry legend. That's just my words, but that's
I
how
would
I
say
would describe it.
icon. So I feel like
Icon, iconic. Yes. Tammy, we're so excited. You have experience across a variety of different lenders, pipeline experience, technology experience, industry experience, and now you are the chief operating officer at Kind Lending. So we'll obviously be hearing about what you're thinking about and working on right now. But thank you for joining us and welcome to Now Next Later.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk about Now Next Later. It's fun because really later is now.
Right on. I love that. And
you
that's
just
how we
became
see the
Jeremy's
world
new
too.
best friend.
It's true. That is how we see the world. And how we walk there that benefit consumers, benefit the industry is really our purpose here. That's why Sasha and I started the show, was everything's interconnected now between technology companies, lenders, experience, and obviously we enjoy the competition of making each other better. But that's great. So thank you for saying it that way. I'll jump right in with the first question. Hopefully my Wi-Fi holds out here. But Tammy, you were saying you've seen everything across, or I was saying you've seen everything across the industry, and later is now. So let's just start with sort of what are those big decisions that people have right in front of them? We have budget season, we have strategic planning season. What are those major influences? What are those major decisions that you're thinking about or hearing from colleagues and clients and your business over the next couple months?
Well, what we're seeing is, the cost to do a loan is still very high. The last numbers from the MBA were right at 11,000, a little under $11,000, which is still way too much for us to be spending on completing a loan. And so some of the things that we need to be thinking about now are, do we have anything connected to our systems that isn't giving us the efficiency we expected? Do we have anything that we're looking at that doesn't give us an efficiency? If you're not getting an efficiency, you're not getting better quality, better compliance, then you should not use that system. And so I know there's a lot of what I would call shiny objects out there that have a promise of something amazing happening. But as long as we're working on monolithic systems that are built some time ago and they don't use the new technology that's out there, and technology is changing so quickly, our now is really trying to figure out what is our next. And a lot of companies are looking at, do we need a different way of operating? Is there a better efficiency method? Our current system is a linear process, and it's really a simulated paper file flow process. So what we did was we just took our computers and we built the same process that we had when we had files. So not anybody can be in the file at the same time. You hand the file from the loan officer to the processor to the underwriter, back and forth. And really, that is a very inefficient way of doing, processing a loan. So I would say that our now is that we are still doing things the way we did back in the 80s, including asking for the same documentation.
Oh, Tammy, that's a lot to unpack. It's a very
Yes.
good bird's eye view of, I think, the issues that most, if not all, lenders are facing. But let's try and unpack it if we can. Jeremy, you're going to have to hold me accountable one piece at a time. When you think about current tech stack, what process do you follow to figure out, do you have technology and it's just not optimized properly, or do you have the wrong technology and it's time for something new?
That is a really great question, Sasha. And I think that a lot of our industry has brought on great efficiency tools, but they haven't changed their model or process.
Hmm.
And if you don't change your model or process when you bring in an efficiency tool, you're not going to get the efficiency you expect. And so it really is looking at, is our process correct with this new tool? I'll give you an example. If you have something that's helping you with reviewing appraisals, let's say, but then you're having the appraisal completely re-reviewed again by an associate, even though there were no red flags on the appraisal, that can really, that's actually a cost for the electronic review. And then still that same person is reviewing the appraisal, where the agencies have actually given us risk scores associated with an appraisal that we could change our process with based on the less than 2.5 risk score versus the riskier loans. And so I think that that's, one example of something that we could do differently if we're still all reviewing our appraisals all the same way, having an underwriter review them. It might be a good process change there that would help to give an efficiency.
Yeah, so it almost sounds like you're recommending go back and question the status quo and see if there are places to optimize process before you even consider evaluating the tech you currently have or bringing in something new, which I think is wise.
Yes, and also I do think that there is some tech out there that it's new and it's different, and so people kind of shy away from using it. But if they did use it, they would find great efficiencies. And, some of that is digital validations of income, employment, asset. And it's really the way that you connect with your customer on whether they will accept that kind of a validation or not. But if the loan officers or the originators feel uncomfortable or don't understand it, their clients aren't going to understand it either.
It seems like, Tammy, you're touching on something that has come up so often for Sasha and I on Now Next Later that we really have to figure out a way to crack through it. And to put it in the words that I keep coming back to, there is technology I'm considering, or I've already bought, one or the other, but then I don't trust it enough. And so I still have my team, and now I have this technology, and I've almost done sort of a doubly painful thing to my business now. So when we try to crack through that, you have what you just mentioned, adoption of the folks that have to use it on one side, and the executive sponsor, champion, maybe even mandate, let's say. Can you walk us through how you balance that and what advice you have for the audience on how to navigate that tension that's just, it's going to be in our business forever, but how we navigate it can make a big difference.
It's really a paradigm shift. And one of the biggest things that I found is that you have to know your audience in recommending or introducing a new tool. And for originators, it's really what's in it for them and what's in it for their customers. So if you approach it for what's in it for the company, it's not as effective as if you tell an originator, hey, your income will instantly be validated through the AUS based on this digital validation. Therefore, you'll be able to feel comfortable in what has been reviewed. And it usually will save, each validation has a different amount of time savings that reduces your cycle time. And as you use digital validations, you can get a higher pull through because your cycle time's reduced, which also gives a lot of other savings. And so these are some of the things that I think loan officers think it's all or nothing for digital, and everybody has a different question in regards to what really is a digital loan. But even if you do only use one piece of a digital validation, it still gives you an efficiency if you utilize it correctly.
Tammy, I love that you said, digital loan, because I do think, and this is where Jeremy loves it when I go avant-garde, and then he gets like all cringy when I start to like go backwards. But the truth is, I think we put the cart before the horse in saying digital loan, digital mortgage, because we're not fully digital. And it could be years, if not forever, that we ever will be. However, I know it's good to push us towards that. But I think the other question I have for you is like, how do you strike the balance for figuring out where human intervention is needed versus where you can really rely on technology?
Yeah, I love that. And one thing that's always going to be needed in our industry that I cannot see in the later is not utilizing relationships. I think the human interaction with relationships is so important with what we're doing to help our customers and families to get into homes. They really need that human interaction to be able to be guided through the process. Also, I do think that there will be still concierge service as they're trying to make sure that everything is working through their process. But as far as the needing to be able to stare and compare or do a repetitive calculation or review a document versus the data, those things will not be as needed in the future from a human intelligence perspective.
So as we think about moving our businesses forward, it can be tough. As Sasha even alluded to a little bit, it can be tough for those of us who see change, see technology capability to just really discipline ourselves on that incremental progress. So if you've scrutinized your pipeline, you're doing the analysis we talked about between process versus systems, and you're identifying those key features. One thing you hear from everybody, whether you're on the technology side or not, is everything takes longer and costs more than you think. And then you hear that from, I like to say that's true about home renovation as much as it is about improving the mortgage process. Like
True.
it's just true. How do you make midterm or even long-term bets, since the later is in our lap? How do you make those bets when there's all these little pieces, all these little variables? How have you done it in your career? And then how do you advise? We talk to CEOs and we talk to those executives, key executives, about thinking about that.
So I divide the process into modules in my mind. And then I think about which would be the module that would be easiest or best as far as an efficiency is concerned. And so anything from, and I hesitate to go through all the modules because everybody would know what I mean by it, but auto ordering of third-party services, auto disclosures, auto compliance and auto fraud, auto income, asset, employment, credit already comes in XML format, which means it's data, and title, flood, hazard, appraisal, specialty, property products like condo. And then whether we have a refi or a purchase, it's the real estate purchase contract, or maybe you have the right of rescission. So those are all the modules that I would like break out and decide what would be one thing that I could automate instead of trying to eat the whole elephant at once. Take a little bite and make sure and have your return on investment, because a lot of people, they look at buy versus build.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's already built, there may not be a cost benefit in building it yourself. If you look at your return on investment, how long it takes to get your return on investment versus rolling out something that's on the shelf, that can really help you to determine, which way you would want to go. But you might want to roll out something on the shelf. And then if you still have a desire to build something different, you can go ahead and build it, but you'll still be getting the efficiencies of what you've rolled. But the modules and how I think about them almost as Lego blocks within the process could happen later or maybe now.
Yeah.
Asynchronous and simultaneous rather than a linear process or even a swim lane approach. Just, it's a dream right now. Think if we had all of the data we needed to run all of the modules, then
Mhm.
couldn't they run asynchronously and simultaneously? And a loan could be completed in minutes versus days.
Yeah, I have one quick follow-up on that, and then Sasha, I'll let you jump in. But just to get down in the, so I've always loved clouds and dirt. When I first took over I was assigned a first innovation team. We wrote on the whiteboard clouds and dirt, right? When we're up here, we want to be inspiring, but we don't want to forget. We got to get down in there and do the work to make that happen. So just a very specific question. Who's in the room when you are trying to put those decisions in order? And you mentioned the ROI. So my mind goes, I need my financial person, obviously ops, product and technology, and then I assume like the key executive. Am I right to think you've got to have everybody in the room? How do you just advise on that?
You do need to have all the right people in the room. But what I've seen sometimes, I'll just give you like a cautionary tale, is that if you have an underwriting system you're trying to roll out that will help the underwriters, give it to the underwriters to roll out is not usually the best way to do it because they don't want it to work. They want to be the most important underwriter in the area. And they don't want efficiencies in their area because they want to be paid the same, they want to do it the same. And so usually if you have underwriters trying to roll out an underwriting tool, they will say it doesn't work and it will fail. So you have to have somebody that is forward thinking to be that executive sponsor that can pick the right people that will make sure that there is success and then have those, key participants come in for a paradigm shift meeting and just talk with them. Say, hey, we're trying to automate underwriting. What would you do if you were trying to automate income calculation or asset or whatever? And let them tell you what they think. And a lot of the things that come up during that paradigm shift meeting will be things that you're already getting ready to implement. And it will make them feel really great that they're connected with the decisions that are being made and that they feel like they were consulted prior to rolling. So that helps a lot with getting that buy-in. But then, there's another way of having buy-in is just making sure that your system supports your new process. And then there's no way of going back to the old way.
That's right. I like the no going back. Go ahead, Sasha.
Right. And I like the clouds and dirt. And I think Lindsay in the chat said the same thing. So we're gonna have to leverage that a lot more now too. I have like 10 questions that have come up over the last 5 minutes of you guys talking, but I'm gonna lean into this one only because it ties into what you just stated, which is if you think about an underwriting automated solution and an underwriting team and you give it to them, chances are they're going to push back because of job security. Makes sense. So my question is, do you feel like executives are thinking about what else could my underwriter be doing that is a good use of their time? And are they starting to engage that workforce? And we're using underwriting as an example, but you can imagine it parlayed across all, right? To help bring people along to, yes, we're going to automate this part of your day-to-day, but here's what next or later looks like for you and how we're going to bring you along and why you should want that. Because I feel like that's a missing piece of the puzzle.
I agree. It's a huge piece of the puzzle. And Sasha, I almost think about like, I love video games. I can't help myself. I really love them. But
I would never have placed a bet that you would have said that, but okay.
I love them. I have 5 kids and they're all married, but at night, we will get on and play video games with each other. And it's just so fun. But it's almost like leveling up,
Yeah.
you know, it's reinventing yourself. So it makes you more valuable in the new world to be able to learn these tools and processes and become an expert at them. And that's something that I've done all my career is continually reinvent myself so that I had the tools that I need to be successful. I saw when I was transitioning from Countrywide to Bank of America that they loved using Six Sigma. So I went back to school, took a math course, took two statistics courses, and then got my green belt and my black belt so that I would be the right person when I was at Bank of America to be that executive. And so, you really do need to take advantage of those opportunities that your companies give you to level up and have more tools in your tool belt to be more successful and more valuable.
Yeah, I love that. And you're a great example of that. I think more executives just need to find ways to not only lead by example to that end, but also to find a way to define a structure for folks to come along and fit into what next and later looks like for them.
Well, and also a credit to you, Tammy, like when we hear from CEOs about what qualities they look for or what quality they themselves think was part of their success, the top qualities, curiosity comes at the top of the list when you ask. And so that curiosity you're talking about, both internal and how you've applied it in your own career, I think is critical in any kind of now, next, later environment, but it's becoming the default you have to have in this economy to remain successful. So that's great to hear. I think that's a valuable insight for everyone. I love to
Chair,
try
there
to
was
incorporate. Yeah,
a
go ahead.
question. Sorry,
Yeah,
were you going to probably go the same direction as
yeah,
me? There's a
yeah.
good
We love to
question,
try to
Tammy, from
incorporate
Jake.
these. Try to incorporate these questions from the chat whenever we can. And we have a few minutes here. So,
Yeah.
Jake Vermillion's question is: when you have to onboard a new technology and you talk about this, what's in it for me, and balancing the tensions we just went through, what balance do you try to strike between the vendor handling training and onboarding and internal training and onboarding? And when do you make those calls, and do lenders see better adoption in one version versus the other?
They actually really do. And I think it's a great question, Jake. As long as you bring your team along rather than surprising them with new technology, it really helps them to, wrap their minds around it and then letting them help to roll it out. But, it's different. Like I said, you need to know who your audience is. So I had a vendor giving me a pitch, but it was the same pitch that they had given to their investors. And so there was nothing about it that was what in it for me. And so I was just like, guys, I'm not interested. If you could tell me what service you're going to provide and come back and it's going to be really fun and great for my company, then I'll listen to it. So you almost have to change it can't be the same presentation for everybody. You have to know your audience and you have to make sure that you know who you're talking to. So let's say it's underwriters. A computer can't have its DE. It can't have its LAP or SAR. Back in 1995, when DU and LP came out, everybody said, oh, that's the end of underwriters, DU and LP. That's automated underwriting system. And I always ask underwriters, how many underwriters lost their jobs when DU and LP came out? It's the mindset, and it's helping people to understand that there is still room for that human intelligence and the risk-based assessments and the judgment within our industry. There's nothing cookie cutter about any loan. And so oftentimes it does take that really experienced human intelligence to get through that and understand all the intricacies of a deal. But back to it, how do you get your vendors and your lenders to be able to train properly and make sure that there's that adoption? It's just knowing your audience and making sure that you're adapting it to your audience. Because, I was on a panel where somebody said, Nobody's going to lose their job if we automate. And I said, yes, people will lose their jobs when you automate, because that's how you get the efficiency, is by having a reduced amount of staff and you have an automated process. But there is a cool way of not losing people, is if you can increase your volume and keep the same people and have that efficiency. And so for the next refi boom, everybody should be looking at, what do I need to be ready for, so that I don't have to scale up with humans, that I can scale up with my system.
Jeremy, you know I'm super passionate about this, so can I have my 2 cents for Jake? Tammy, I love everything you said. Having been on the technology side for the vast majority of my career in mortgage, here's what I have noticed, Jake, that I would advise. Number one, depends on how complex the technology is. The more complex, the more I do think having a vendor as a partner, assuming they're the right partner, can be very helpful. To double down on what Tammy said around knowing your audience, do your stakeholders trust them? Whether it's your loan officers, your underwriting staff, like, do they trust that vendor? If they don't, you got to bridge that gap. And if that vendor's not doing a good job, find another vendor. I hate to say this, but a lot of technology is very, very similar. And relationships is the business that we are in. And if you don't have the right relationships and you don't have that trust, the adoption will never happen. And the last thing I will say is, one silly edge case that goes wrong can turn adoption from all the way across the finish line to
zero,
dead in the water, never going to happen again. And so again, the right partnership between what Tammy said, having the right executive sponsor who's a champion, having a vendor who truly is consultative, understands how to partner and build that trust, and then managing through ahead of time. These are the edge cases we're probably going to run into. When we run into those issues, we're going to be in the trenches with you. Here's how we're going to resolve it. When you get ahead of it, your adoption numbers will naturally increase. So I'm sorry, I had to give my little soapbox 2 cents, but
don't be sorry. You want to know what? You just led me right into a really good thought. And, you know, it is all about those partnerships and having the right partner, and even a forward-thinking partner. You know, there's a lot of tech out there that maybe a new user interface has been put on it, which means just a new screen, but it's still old. Yep. One cool group out there is Prudent AI, and they are doing.
You just got a response from Paul in the chat, so your ears must have been burning.
Yeah, I saw Paul, and I think he's amazing. Yeah. So I use Prudent AI, and I recommend it to all of my friends. It has, you know, we've really got to push OCR out, the old OCR. It's no longer relevant, no longer needed. Prudent AI actually uses a new technology with only 10% human in the loop, versus today we have 40% human in the loop with OCR. And it saves underwriters anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 hours. And it has bank statement calculation and analyzer, as well as full doc income calculation. And it was built by accountants. And I just love it. It's fast, it's easy. You know, I've used the other systems. I know the names. I'm not going to say names of ones that are out there, but this is the most forward-thinking group out there as far as income and asset. The implementation is also super fast. It only takes about 5 days. So it's a quick way to get a good win, is, you know, using a partner that you know can give you a forward thinking system that you will use later.
Love it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your insight, for spending time with us. I always like to staying on time is not my strong suit. So when I do this for Crispin commentary, and Robbie and I try to stay on time. So we have like about a minute left. And Tammy, I didn't want to leave without giving you an opportunity to share some insight and experience that you've gained in your career and everything you've done, and leading organizations, being a key executive. I know a lot of women and men in this industry look up to you. And so just could you give us the advice that you would give yourself starting in this industry at 25, 30 years old? What advice do you have for the audience if they're just getting started in mortgage?
Thank you for asking that question, Jeremy. I would say ethics and integrity are the most important thing that you can have. And so always be ethical and keep your integrity, and then continue to reinvent yourself so that you can be the right candidate for the position that you want to be. So look at the job description and then ask yourself, am I that, or do I need to grab a few more tools? Have good mentors and make sure that that you are striving to always be the best at what you do, and be curious. I think that it's right, Jeremy, be curious.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sasha. Thank you, Tammy. Thanks to
Thank you,
Paul
Tammy.
Gelati and Prudent AI. And thank you, Robbie, for letting us do Now Next Later. But Tammy, we really appreciate it. We'll definitely have you back and keep this conversation going in a part 2.
Sounds great. Thank you, everybody. Have a happy
Take
Monday.
care. You too.